Welcome into Queen City News Plus Live on this Tuesday, March 3rd. It is 3 p.m. and it is also primary day.
Yes, it is.
In the area, in the Queen City. We'll get to everything you need to know about the primary and when the polls close and all that good stuff coming up a little bit later in our show. I am Morgan Francis, joined alongside Derek Dellinger, and of course we've got meteorologist Brandon Lawson, and Austin McCollum, usually at the helm. Welcome, Austin. Thank you for joining us today.
Good crew here.
We do have a lot to get to today. First, starting with the latest out of Iran. Just in the past few hours here, the State Department says it's preparing military and charter flights for Americans who are trying to get out of the Middle East right now. A lot of issues with people who are just stuck there amid this ongoing escalating conflict.
Yes, in fact, private flights have been canceled largely because of the airspace around there. Everything's kind of uncertain right now. There's the danger of planes being shot down, particularly on either side of this, at least right now. So, and we've heard reports of planes being shot down in Kuwait, even though this was kind of, I believe, a friendly fire situation. But as you can see, this is flight aware.
The airspace, flight aware, the airspace around Iran and Iraq, and you can see this just kind of like
Jordan,
a black hole
Israel,
of no
Arabia,
flights going back and forth. Everyone avoiding that area for the time being. So Iran struck the U.S. embassy in Saudi Arabia's capital with a drone as it continues to target the area. This comes as obviously this all started with Israel and the U.S. Launching an attack on Iran amid the negotiations about their nuclear weapons that were just deteriorating. President Trump today, he hosted the German chancellor and spoke in length about basically what is the latest with this ongoing conflict.
Yes, and the Trump administration itself has basically been saying that regime change is not the goal. There are, however, some goals that President Trump has laid out, more specifically destroying the missile capabilities in Iran, wiping out their navy, as well as preventing nuclear weapons, and ending support for armed groups like Hezbollah and some of the other groups that have been known to be tied with Iran in some way, shape, and form. Now, President Trump has felt strongly that Iran was planning an attack. But as far as the specifics of that, it was left kind of vague, at least in that.
Right, and he said that he could tell based off of how the negotiations were going that it was that Iran would strike the U.S. and he wasn't going to wait for them to strike the U.S. so that they could respond. He also was asked about whether or not it was basically the U.S.'s idea to launch this attack or Israel. He said that he might have actually forced Israel's hands because of the negotiations and the way that they were headed with Iran.
Yes, we did mention that the U.S. embassy in Saudi Arabia was attacked. Embassies in the Middle East have been closed because of some of the tensions that are happening out there right now. We should also mention there's some pushback here in the U.S., and more specifically from House and Senate lawmakers over whether an operation in Iran was justified. And they are expected to meet this week on a war powers resolution, and we hope to have more details on that. Meanwhile, what's been happening in Iran is having an effect on the stocks and also the oil prices as well. In fact, there's a very good chance you have seen gas prices go up, but just a little bit, well, more than just a little bit, here in the Charlotte area over the past day or so.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the average price for a gallon of gasoline in the U.S. It jumped 11 cents overnight to about roughly $3.11. You may have noticed it at the pump this morning. Austin, I know that you filled up a tank last night and then saw the prices this morning and how big of a difference that was.
$2.69 on Sunday, $3.11 this morning.
Yeah, so it's quite the difference there. In terms of the stock market, Dow Jones was down 1,200 points or 2.5%. And then kind of made a little bit of a comeback today. At last check, it was a 0.8% dip. Same story with the S&P 500 as well as the NASDAQ. Both of them starting in the red and are starting to kind of climb their way back to neutral territory. And that's essentially what we saw yesterday as they opened with sharp losses before recovering almost back to even.
Yeah, as far as the gas prices were concerned, Austin was mentioning he saw $3.11 gas prices. The average here in Charlotte, according to AAA, was $2.75 yesterday. As of today, it is $2.92. And as far as the stock markets are concerned, stocks for many companies that have to deal with oil, or shall we say, have large consumption
of
oil.
The airlines are getting hit.
They are getting hit quite a bit.
Yeah, United Airlines fell 5.4%, American Airlines 5.8%, and Delta Airlines dropped 4.3%. As we showed you from FlightAware, they're obviously not flying in those areas as well. Trump did say, by the way, that he's fairly confident, although this is a future prediction, that as soon as the war is over, oil and gas prices will return. That is what his prediction is. Of course, we will see if and when that happens. Back here locally, we did mention it off the top of the show. It is North Carolina primary day. Voters have been hitting the polls all day today. And there are some key races that are being watched closely. One of them is for the NC Senate race, which, as we know...
U.S. Senate race. But
U.S. Senate race, as we know, Senator Tom Tillis is retiring.
Yes. And
there are 6 people who are vying for a spot to get to November.
Yes. The favorites, however, we should say here, at least right now, are former North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper. He's considered the favorite on the Democratic side right now, and on the Republican side, Michael Whatley. He's the former RNC head, but he was also head of the North Carolina GOP. He was a pretty well-known figure and has been endorsed by President Trump. We also have local attorney Don Brown on the Republican side going for that seat. Also, former Department of Public Instruction candidate Michelle Morrow. She's also going for the Republican seat as well. But again, we should say Michael Whatley is considered, at least right now, the favorite. And as far as the polls are concerned, as far as what we could be seeing in November, the way things are right now, Roy Cooper is considered the favorite in the race in general so far, though that is expected largely to tighten up, especially once debates and once we get closer to November.
I mean, in terms of spending for this race, I mean, the projections are that it could be $1 billion spent on this race only. Yes. So it could be a huge one. It is being watched very closely, of course. Real quick, there are other races that we're tracking. You know, the race for sheriff, as well as a highly competitive primary for NC House District 106 that involves Representative Carla Cunningham. Yes. Who has faced some backlash on her voting record in recent years. You mentioned sheriff, and specifically Mecklenburg County Sheriff, because we know how much Gary McFadden, who was the incumbent who was running for another term, how much he has been embattled as of late, as far as some of the controversy. lot of press when it comes to naming the branches of government, of course, in that committee that he was testifying for. So we will see the results of all those, and of course here at Queen City News, we will have the very latest on Queen City News 4, 5, and 6, but also as the polls close, leading up through our show at 10 o'clock. Yes. We should also mention, too, every North Carolina county in our area is voting in some way, shape, and form. So especially if you live in North Carolina right now, go out and vote. Yeah, important there. Some interesting testimony, I guess. Moments. There are two interesting testimonies that we're gonna cover. The first one being Kristi Noem testified for the first time since the big ice surge in Minnesota, and she had a quite tense, I guess, back and forth with Amy Klobuchar regarding Renee Good and Alex Preddy and her language that she chose when describing. Let's listen to the soundbite, and then we'll break it all down.
In the recent hearing before the HISGAC committee, CBP and ICE officials testified under oath that their agencies did not inform you that Preddy was a domestic terrorist during that hearing, stated during that hearing.
I was getting reports from the ground from agents at the scene, and I would say that it was a chaotic scene, as you've seen in Minneapolis and St. Paul, as immigration enforcement has gone forward, and we've worked at targeting the worst of the worst, that many times our agents have been faced with violent
the victims of protesters. That violence domestic terrorists as a way to calm the scene?
These violent terrorists have put them in a situation where it's unprecedented what these agents have faced it. So that situation on the ground that day was chaotic.
So that is Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem in the testimony that she made earlier this morning. In fact, basically alluding to, if not explicitly saying, Renee Good, Alex Preddy, considering them violent terrorists. She did not apologize in any way, shape, or form for the language. And she did note that there was a chaotic situation as to what was happening in Minneapolis, but she did not apologize for the characterizations of those that were killed in those videos that you just saw.
And she faced similar questions from other senators who were there who were asking her about it. One of them, as I mentioned, was U.S. Senator from Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar. The exact quote that I believe they're referencing is when Noem said, quote, "When you perpetuate violence against a government because of ideological reasons and for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence, that is the definition of domestic terrorism." And she made a point at one point to say that she did not call them domestic terrorists, but defined their actions as domestic terrorism. And then again, did not recant on any of those remarks.
And this is despite the video evidence showing the contrary, at least in both of those cases, too.
Specifically, Alex Preddy is the one that they're looking at, not necessarily Renee Good.
Yes. The enforcement actions, by the way, from ICE have been under a close eye from Washington, and is part of the reason for the partial shutdown, and specifically of the Department of Homeland Security over the ICE actions as well, because Democrats do want to see something different. They do want to see some reforms in that department before they move any further and before they actually entertain any idea of funding there. The other story we are focusing on, this one's local and has to do with, 77 and some of the traffic that you see there each and every day, especially if you're heading out of Uptown towards, South Carolina state line. We've been talking for a while about the idea of those toll lanes between Uptown and the state line, but it looks like, at least for now, that that project, that idea, is being put on hold by NCDOT.
So NCDOT, the specific part that's on hold, they say they will not be accepting proposals from road builders until late June of 2026 to allow more time to engage with the community. So they've had a lot of sessions that community members can go to. I can't say definitively what the turnout has been at these, but as of lately, there has been a lot of pushback from community members who are concerned about the potential impact that this project could have on the communities surrounding I-77. Anywhere pollution, I believe, was another thing that they mentioned. And this comes on the heels of the Black Political Caucus filing a temporary restraining order to basically, halt all of this. So last night at City Council, council members essentially, I don't know, I wouldn't say applauded, but they were happy to hear that at least that NCDOT has been listening to the community and their concerns over this.
Yes. In fact, one of the interesting comments was from Charlotte City Council member Ed Driggs. He's a Republican here. He said, I do think the good news is NCDOT has recognized the usual process with these things is not going to cut it. And yes, NCDOT does have a normal process of getting community input for any project that they normally do, and hearing pretty much all sides as they can get, and kind of making changes as need be to that, as long as it doesn't necessarily impact the entire existence of the actual project. But there's a full acknowledgement here that there are some certain things that are in this process that probably need to be unique, at least for Charlotte and the communities that are along 77, which are disproportionately lower income and also minority focused. And we should mention that, that's been one of the big things.
Right.
Which
is also why they chose the lanes that were supposed to be elevated above I-77 to reduce the potential impact there.
But there's also worries about the construction and also exactly the additional noise that will be coming from that.
We could talk about that one forever. But I know a guy who's waiting for us to get to the weather, and that's meteorologist Brandon Lawson, because today I feel like is the last day of, I wouldn't say cold, maybe chilly. I mean, it's 53 degrees out there right now, but it is about to warm up, isn't it, Brandon?
Yeah, it's going to warm up really, really nicely. Starting tomorrow, getting into the 70s. Then later this week, we're going to be tracking temperatures in the 80s. Just got to get rid of these clouds first. The clouds are just holding on tight here. I am starting to see them thin up, and we are seeing some peaks of sun up towards the foothills and the mountains. And that's allowing temperatures to warm up a bit more there this afternoon. But by the time the sun sets, I don't think we're going to be able to clear those clouds out completely over the Charlotte Metro. Looking at temperatures right now, 52 to 53 degrees right now up in Boone and Jefferson. Charlotte's at 56, so with those clouds thinning up a bit, that is allowing for a little bit more solar insolation. So we are getting a little bit more sun in, and that's allowing temperatures to come up slightly. We are a bit warmer than we were yesterday. Big reason for that, the clouds are thinning up a bit. We're getting a little bit more sun in, and that's allowing temperatures to heat up just a bit more. The mountains, they saw sun earlier this morning, so they're about 10 to 15 degrees warmer up in the high country this afternoon. And you look at wind speeds, we're not dealing with those winds that we dealt with yesterday. It went strongly out of the northeast, and that northeasterly breeze, that's a colder breeze for us. But when it's a strong breeze like yesterday, that means you're bringing in more colder air. When you don't have as big of a breeze, you're bringing in less colder air, so temperatures are also slightly warmer because of that reason too. We have a stall boundary to our north. Man, I'm actually jealous of the folks north of us. They were getting a good amount of rain up towards the Ohio Valley. Obviously, we don't want the flooding that they're getting, but we do need rain. Now, primary voting, if you're going to be out voting for primary election day for the afternoon, temperatures staying in the mid to upper 50s. Remember, the polls close at 7:30, but if you're in line, you can still vote. Go out there, cast your vote. No weather to harm that for you as we go through. We'll talk more about the heat up, guys, coming up here in just a little bit.
All right, Brandon, thank you. Looking forward to that. Yeah, we do kind of need the rain.
Yeah,
That
we
would be
do.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
So, you've probably got 5G on your phone.
think
6G. It is a thing. And it could be becoming more of a thing.
I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat now.
We'll delve into that. And, well, not necessarily the tinfoil hat stuff, but what you can expect.
Why not? Oh, come on.
What you could expect
No fun.
from what could be 6G. That is coming up next. This is Queen City News Plus Live. .318. This is Queen City News Plus Live as we take a live look over Independence Boulevard. As you can see, traffic relatively light right now, and well, it's kind of been a meh day outside. We'll have a look at that 7-day forecast, though, coming up in just a couple minutes with Brandon, because it is going to be looking very, very good. Let's talk Supreme Court and some cases that are actually or at least one case that might very likely go to the Supreme Court, but another that's kind of already been decided involving transgender rights.
So one of them is out of California, and the other is out of Kansas. So one out of California, there was a law basically that parents, that the schools couldn't out kids who were, going with a different
gender identity.
Gender identity. They couldn't tell the parents that the child was choosing this. The Supreme Court has basically said no, that's not going to be the case. So that was a split decision, by the way. So it blocks that state law and bans automatic parental notification for change of pronouns at school.
Yes. The objections for this basically came from some Catholic parents. They were represented by a conservative-leaning society. And they say it caused schools to mislead them to secretly facilitate a children's social transition despite a parental objection. California, on the other hand, they were saying that, hey, this shouldn't have been happening in the first place, that these teachers should not have been outing the students. They argue that students have a right to privacy about their gender expression, especially if they do fear rejection from their families. On top of that, there's also this other case out of Kansas, which may very likely go to the Supreme Court, judging from the way it sounds too.
It reminds me a lot of kind of the bathroom bill days in North Carolina.
Yes.
So this one is 2 trans people who sued the state attorney general and 3 other state officials over SB 244. So that demands that people use the bathrooms and locker rooms that are associated, that match their sex assigned at birth. It also requires state agencies to invalidate and reverse gender marker changes to driver's licenses in the state and birth certificates.
Yes, and you have to keep in mind, for people who are wishing to transition to a different gender, they have to go through a very extensive legal process if they want to make sure everything is crossed on the dotted line. And in many legal respects, someone who goes through gender transition, they are legally considered the transition, the gender to which they transition to, in very legal sense. This law basically nixes all of that, at least in Kansas. And the law, those that are suing, they're basically 2 trans men. They say that it violates their rights and personal autonomy, and because they have gone through every legal process to be considered men or male, for lack of better words, even though Kansas is basically saying, hey, no more.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I changed my last name, and that was like 3 hours at the DMV, 3 hours of Social Security. It takes a lot just to change one thing on your driver's license. I want to get to the latest out of this closed-door deposition that the Clintons have been involved in.
Yeah.
This, again, closed-door deposition.
It was released yesterday. Yeah.
It got testy when
Yes.
when Hillary Clinton, there were some photos that were being released live while she was testifying. She got upset about that and walked out the door, and then we saw the video of that. They're starting to release these video clips of the deposition, and she got into a heated exchange with Nancy Mace. Let's listen to that, and then we'll break it all down for you.
Howard Lutnick missed being a victim because he was delayed dropping his child off to kindergarten. You asked the question. I'm going to answer your question.
Now you're going to.
This was what I spent my time doing.
I'm a survivor trying to look out for other survivors.
And I was taking care of the people who lost 3,000 lives.
And now you're being
at World
defiant
Trade
and
Center.
indignant today.
You asked me about
I have met
Howard
with Epstein
Lutnick.
survivors. I'm a survivor myself. You have emails. You've denied that Jeffrey Epstein, that you tried to get Jeffrey Epstein to give money to you.
I did not.
Howard Lutnick was
If you
used
have an
to get
email
money.
with me asking Jeffrey Epstein for money,
I have an email from Howard Lutnick sending it to Jeffrey Epstein and his people to raise money for
I don't
you
know about
for an event, an intimate event for you at his offices at Cantor Fitzgerald. You're going to sit here today and obfuscate and say to this committee, you didn't try to get money from Jeffrey Epstein when there was an intimate event in an email that Howard.
All right, so it's tough to follow if you're
Yes.
watching this for the first time. So the discussion is about Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who has recently faced a lot of scrutiny over his past associations with Jeffrey Epstein. So the topic was an email from Lutnick to Epstein, basically asking him to donate money to Hillary Clinton for a political event. And this was the whole conversation. As you can hear, Nancy Mace cuts Clinton off multiple times, and the frustration just continues to build as she tries to answer her question.
Yeah, and at the heart of it was Hillary Clinton's association with Howard Lutnick. And Lutnick, by the way, he shows up multiple times in the Epstein files, even though he has denied any wrongdoing, basically said, hey, he was just a neighbor of mine, and that was literally it, even though the Epstein files do indicate there was a bit more than just neighbors that were there. But we should mention that, Hillary Clinton, she did answer to the best of her ability, objectively speaking, as far as like she tried at least to get the point across is that she did not have any association whatsoever. And the resounding thing that we've kind of gotten from this is it kind of depends on what side you're on. If you're Republican, you probably think that some of the conversations, or if you're conservative leaning, you might can see the conversation as one way, as far as it's been considered unhinged. Is some of the words
Congresswoman Mace used that term.
Yes.
Clinton also pointed out at one point she understands that Mace is a survivor of rape, just like Epstein's numerous victims, and showed compassion toward her despite the back and forth, saying, basically that she can't imagine what she has been through.
Yes. A final story before we get to weather, and I know we're running a little bit short, so we'll keep it quick here. We told you about 5G and before the break. 6G is going to be becoming a thing, and it's apparently going to be becoming a thing in 2029. You might be wondering what the difference is.
So my gathering is it is 5G on steroids. This is what I've been reading.
Yes.
So AI is basically going to be kind of running on the background of this.
Yes. 5G will not necessarily be centered on speed, but it will be helping with connectivity. Let's just say you lose cell service, you need satellite service. It will probably be able to facilitate that a little bit better. Also, wireless networks that can work around physical environments. Let's just say, you're having to work you're in a building, shall we say, that is not very cell phone friendly. and basically it would allow a little bit better working connectivity between both.
So you don't have to walk to a different part of the home when someone says you're cutting out.
Yes. Let's get to weather real quick. As we as we take a look at this is Monroe, as you can see right now, still cloudy.
Is that lens dirty or is it raining,
I
Brandon?
think it's always like that.
It's always dark like that.
I don't remember it being that dark.
but it's still looking.
But the super is the most important part.
Yeah, I was reading that.
Really.
Austin, what kind of show are you trying to run here?
Exactly.
The right kind.
Hopefully you're replacing
Hopefully
shorts.
pants for shorts, I'm assuming. And I'm assuming we can get those shorts out, right, Brandon?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, mid to late this week, and really into next week. Just looking at the weather pattern here, climatologically speaking, over the next 2 weeks, it looks warm. So get ready to enjoy a lot of warmer weather. It's not going to be one of those things where we warm up and then get really cold again. It looks warm for a prolonged period of time. Let's look at high temperatures over the next 7 days. 75 tomorrow, 78 Thursday. And then as we get into Friday, 82 degrees is actually a record high. So looking at Friday's temperature versus the record high temperature, 82 for the forecast. The record's 80 set back in 2022. That's 20 degrees above average. Saturday's forecast, 80 degrees. record 85. Looking at Sunday's forecast, 81 degrees forecast for that. And then the record 84. So yeah, 3 days in a row of 80-degree temperatures. Definitely going to be really nice across the area for sure. Temperatures right now only in the 50s across much of the region. Again, we're going to be tracking some chillier temperatures as we head through the evening. And overnight tonight, temperatures are likely just going to hold steady right around the 40s because temperatures are likely to not drop much because we're going to have a lot of cloud cover overhead. And that is going to be keeping temperatures, again, as we head towards the overnight hours up because the clouds kind of act as a blanket to keep temperatures warmer. Here's a look at satellite radar. Notice a stalled boundary to our north. A lot of rain for the Ohio Valley. That is some really good rain for them. Indianapolis, Columbus, St. Louis area. As you're getting through northern West Virginia up towards the Charleston, West Virginia metro, you're talking about 2 to 4 inches of rainfall, which is very beneficial rain for them. For us, merely a drop over the next few days. The Futurecast shows the clouds, though, trying to break up this evening. We'll see patchy fog, likely some low clouds again tomorrow morning. And look at how things clear out for the afternoon. A lot more sunshine tomorrow, plenty of vitamin D to go around for your Wednesday. And looking at those rain chances again, not necessarily going up. Friday, maybe a spotty shower chance through the weekend. Looking at maybe some isolated to scattered shower chances, especially on Sunday. But again, rain chances few and far between. We need it. We're looking at the mid-70s for highs tomorrow towards Charlotte. Upper 60s towards the mountains. So mountain forecast showing 60s and 70s as we head towards the weekend. That starts tomorrow up in the high country. And then here towards Charlotte, we're in the 70s tomorrow, continuing into the 80s by the weekend. Springing forward to losing an hour of sleep Saturday night into Sunday, but temperatures won't be springing back.
Don't remind
Yeah,
me. Don't
a
remind me.
little
Don't
easier to
remind me.
swallow with the temps
Yeah,
where they're going to
right.
be. All right, Brandon, thanks. Kind of a crazy story out of
Yes.
Texas. This was in Longview. Look at that. There's
Yes.
a hot air balloon that got tangled in a communications tower.
Yes, this happened back on February 28th. A drone video actually shows some of the operation that was happening right there. That's how they were able to get that video. And as you can see, they had to do a rescue to actually get the people that were on the balloon there. You can see exactly what they were doing to help them out, to get them to safety.
And they were safe.
Yes.
But
Some
what
climbers
I
had to
found
go up and
interesting
actually get
about this is firefighters actually had trained for a hot air balloon incident. I can't imagine what is all involved in that training, but they used 6 different rope systems to try to kind of stabilize everything and then have these guys kind of shimmy over to safety.
And 900 feet above the ground, which also meant a bit of a,
Yeah, I
a
think
bit of a trek
900
up that
feet would look
communications
like
tower.
4,000 feet to me in that situation.
Yeah, that will do it for us for today. This is Queen City News Plus Live. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Have a nice afternoon.
Don't look down.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.